Okay, guys. So today what we're going to be doing is today is Thursday, right? So we're going to be starting with a new section. We're going to start with the writing section now that we're done with the speaking section. So far, we have seen the speaking section entirely, right? We started with question 1, the independent question. Then we went to question 2, the second. Then we did the third. And finally, last class, we did the fourth question. We already practiced as well. So today we're going to move on to the writing section. Let's see. Okay, guys. So the writing section. The writing section will be the last section for the test, the one that you get at the end. And it's just like the other sections. It's over 30 points. It lasts approximately half an hour, but of course it may be a little bit more with instructions and everything. So I'd say maybe 40 minutes we're going to spend in the writing section. Okay, guys. Now, how's the structure of the writing section? How many questions have you got? In the writing sections, you guys got 2 different questions, question 1 and question 2. The first question is called the integrated writing, which has always been like that. The integrated writing question, the first question of the writing section. And the second question is very new, relatively new. It only appeared starting July the 26th. So 2 months ago now. So we're going to be seeing both of them. Today, we will start with the first integrated question. We're going to see a little bit. We'll continue tomorrow. And we'll also have some assignments for the writing section. Okay, guys? So we're going to start today with the integrated writing, which is the first question of the writing section. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, guys, good. Then let's take a look at the writing section. What you guys have to do in the writing section is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. First, you guys will have to read a text. You will have to read an article, to be more specific. It will be an academic article. And you will be given 3 minutes to read this passage, this text. After you read the text, you guys will have to listen to a lecture. The lecture is about the same topic, so you don't have to worry about that. And you will listen to a lecture where the professor responds to the writing, responds to the article that you read. Okay, so you read the text, you listen to this lecture, you can only listen once. So you gotta take notes. You gotta, remember as many details as you can. And finally, you get the question. And the question is pretty much gonna ask you to write an essay where you summarize the content of both. When you summarize or when you explain what the professor says, and you contrast that with what you had. So basically, it's a summary of the reading. You have 20 minutes to write this essay after you listen to the lecture. Okay, guys? So again, first you read an article for 3 minutes, you listen to a lecture where the professor talks about the article, then you get the question that asks you to summarize both, and finally you get 20 minutes to do that, to write the essay. Is that okay so far? Any questions about the format? Okay, guys, good. Now, let's see. Let's take a look. We're going to be seeing an example. By the way, this is kind of how your screen will look like when you're taking the test. So initially, you will just get the text. And you guys have 3 minutes to read it, technically. You only have 3 minutes. So you just have to read the text carefully. I would say you don't have to just scan it. Read the text carefully. You do not have to take notes of the reading because the text won't go away. It will stay right where it is. So you guys will be able to read the text at the same time that you're writing here the essay. That means you shouldn't worry about remembering or memorizing the details of the text. Okay, guys, because you will have it there. It won't go anywhere. On top of the screen, you guys will have the question. You will also obviously have a timer, which is going to be counting down your 20 minutes to write the essay. And here on the right, you need to start typing your response. So you get to type your response on a computer. Remember, it's not actual writing, like handwriting. Okay, guys? I think that covers it, the format. I don't know if you guys have questions about this. Okay, so let's see an example. Okay, guys, we're going to be seeing an example. This is the text that you would have to read. I'm going to make my screen bigger. Okay, guys, so I will give you all 3 minutes to read this text, and then we will discuss. Please begin reading now. Okay, guys? So, what can you tell me about this text? What do you think it's about?
About autonomous cars.
Okay, thank you so much, Sana. That's correct. So if we had to talk about the topic of this article, because it's an article, we could say that the topic is, or the topic is autonomous cars, exactly. Now, in every text that you guys read, every article that you read in this part of the writing, there's always going to be one main idea. And spoiler alert, the main idea won't be the same as the topic. Okay, it's obviously related to the topic, but it's not the same as the topic. The topic, we can always say it in one sentence, right? It's about autonomous cars, it's about cars. But the main idea is something different, okay? Now, where do you guys find the main idea? You will find it in the first paragraph, which is the introduction of this text. And that main idea is always going to be a claim. It's like an opinion, something that is supported by the rest of the text. So in the introduction, you guys have a main idea, and in the rest of the text, the author, the person who wrote this text, is trying to convince the reader, convince us of that point, okay? So what would you guys say the main point, the main idea of this article is? It's in the introduction, the first part. What is it?
That they will have a positive impact on our driving experience.
Exactly, Salma. Thank you so much. So that is the main argument. That's the main point of this text. The author, the person who wrote it, is trying to make the point, trying to convince the reader that these autonomous cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience. That is definitely the main point, and it's always going to be in the introduction. Now, in the rest of the paragraphs, you always have three. It's always like this. You always have an introduction, and then you have the body. You have three body paragraphs. So in each body paragraph, you guys will have one supporting idea, okay? One supporting idea that somehow relates to the main point, that somehow proves the main point, you know? So in this case, the author gives us some reasons, right? The author says autonomous cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience, and each paragraph, each body paragraph contains one reason supporting that idea. So can you guys tell me what is the first reason that we have in the first body paragraph? Here? What's the first reason? Or where is it?
Traffic accidents. Yes.
What about traffic accidents?
That the first reason is that the software that runs driverless cars is not capable of making mistakes, maybe.
Yes, but if we dig a little deeper, then we can say that the reason is that these cars will be safer, right? Why will they be safer? Because they're not capable of making mistakes. But the first point here is on safety. It's about safety, the safety of these cars. So the author says these cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience, first because they will be safer. That is the first reason, right? That these vehicles will be safer than usual cars, according to the author. Is that okay? Do you guys agree with me on that? What about the second reason in the second body paragraph?
Environmental benefits.
Exactly. That these cars are good, are beneficial for the environment. Yep. And what about the final one in the last paragraph?
Maybe improve passenger experience.
I don't know. Do they say that? Improving passengers?
Well, it says instead of having to focus on driving, human occupants can focus on other things.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not making the experience better. That's giving people time to do other things. Right? The main idea here is that these cars will give people or will give passengers time to, as you said, do other stuff like reading, watching videos, whatever they want. So these are the three reasons, the three benefits that that the author gives, supporting his main point or her main point, we don't know, right? That these cars will have a positive impact on our driving experience. And this is always going to be the structure. You always have a main idea in the introduction, and then you have three supporting points in each body paragraph. And of course, every paragraph contains its details, right? So they say these will be safer because they can make mistakes. We have examples, we have details. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is that you're able to understand those key points. The main idea in the introduction, and the three supporting points in the three body paragraphs. Guys, that's what you guys need to do when you're reading. You do not have to take notes unless you want to. And if you're going to take notes, then just write down a couple of words that will help you remember the ideas. So perhaps you can maybe have in your notes autonomous cars and then positive, safer, environment, time. Those are the keywords. That's all you need from this text. Okay, guys? Like try to always visualize or make it visual where you find the main ideas. Okay, so might kind of memorize this. Unfortunately, you can highlight in the text, but you can try to do this mentally, right? Have an idea of where you can find the main ideas so that then you can come back to it later. But this is what you're supposed to do when you're reading. This okay so far? Any questions? Okay, guys? Now, after you read for your 3 minutes, you will have to listen to a lecture. And in this lecture, you will have to hear the professor talking about this. So you will hear a professor, a university teacher, and this professor is always going to be responding to whatever you had in the reading. So what you hear in the lecture is basically a response to the article. The professor's lecture is based on this article. Now, the professor is always going to object whatever the author said. So the author says here that these cars will have a positive impact on a driving experience. The professor will say the direct opposite, that they won't have a positive experience, a positive impact, sorry. Then the author says that these vehicles will be safer. The professor will probably say that they won't be safe. So the professor is going to talk about each one of these points, refuting them, objecting to them. Okay, and your job is to, first of all, be an active listener. You already have an idea of what this is about. And that's why it's so important that you guys understand this really well. Because if you already know these ideas, then you become an active listener. You're just not listening to whatever the professor says. You're looking for specific information, right? You're asking yourself certain questions. Like, first, what does the professor think about these autonomous cars? Does the professor think that they will have a positive impact? Second, what does the professor say about the fact that these cars will be safe? Does the professor agree? And why, right? Why does the professor feel the way that he or she feels? What does the professor think about the point on the environment? Does the professor agree that these cars will be good for the environment, and why? What does the professor say about the fact that these autonomous cars will give passengers time, and why? Right? Those are the questions that you should be answering when listening to the lecture. Don't forget the why part is not just about understanding the professor's opinion, but understanding the reasons that the professor gives. Okay? So it's important that when you're hearing the lecture, you catch the details and you take really good and organized notes, because you will be writing more about the listening than what you will be writing about the reading. Okay? So you do need to understand things more in detail in the listening. You cannot summarize the way we're doing it here. Okay, guys? Is that okay? Do you have any questions before we play the lecture? Okay, guys, good. Then let's go ahead and play the lecture. Get ready to take notes, please. I'm going to play.
Now listen to part of a lecture on the same topic you just read about. A lot of people are very excited about driverless cars, but most of the media attention and praise ignores the problems with driverless cars. The author seems to believe that autonomous cars will cure all of our driving troubles, when nothing could be further from the truth. Take the idea that driverless cars will be safer. Remember, all computer software is designed by humans, so any type of automatic guidance system within driverless cars will be prone to error. For example, the driverless car mentioned by the author, the one that drove over 700,000 miles without an accident, actually hit another car just last month. It was all over the news because it makes everyone doubt just how safe driverless cars actually are. And what about the idea that driverless cars will reduce pollution? Well, some studies suggest that more people will begin to drive once driverless cars become available. Since people will no longer need a driver's license to get behind the wheel, age restrictions for both young and old will no longer matter. More people will be on the road, and it will increase the amount of cars. Pollution levels may actually increase with driverless cars, even if they drive in a more fuel-efficient manner. As for the extra time the driverless cars are supposed to give us, well, that may be such a benefit after all. You see, most people nowadays find driving relaxing. They enjoy driving their car while listening to music or talk radio. It's a welcome distraction from the usual routine. Once people start to use driverless cars, it becomes another space to do work or watch videos, which is how most people already spend most of their day. I'm afraid that this extra time in driverless cars will just be another way to work or waste time. Now, answer the question. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage. You have 20 minutes to write.
Okay, guys. So, let's talk about the lecture before. Okay, guys, so what can you tell me about the lecture? Did you notice that it was a response to the article? What is the professor's opinion on these driverless cars?
He is not agree.
Exactly. He doesn't agree, careful. He doesn't agree. Okay, yeah, he says that they won't have a positive impact, right? That there are some problems that people are ignoring. So yeah, he doesn't agree. Now, what about, I mean, why? What's the first reason he gives? What does the professor say about the safety of these cars?
He said that the software is designed by humans, so it can have mistakes. And he gave the example of that the car hit another car last month.
Okay, good. So yes, exactly. He says that, well, the software is designed by humans, so they can also make mistakes. And exactly, he gives the example of that car that was mentioned in the reading, and he says that that car actually hit another car, right? Yes, exactly that. Anything else you guys want to add? Okay. What about the second reason? What does he say about the environment?
He said that if the person doesn't need a driver license, the amount of cars will increase, and also the pollution.
Exactly, great. So there won't be any restrictions. There won't be any age restrictions, for example. So maybe you will find like 7-year-old people driving or 13-year-old kids driving. So the amount of cars will increase, which means that pollution levels could actually increase, even if these cars do drive more efficiently, because of the amount of cars and because of the increasing amount of cars, pollution can actually increase, right? So the environment is not really going to be so benefited after all. Finally, what does the professor say about the time that these cars are going to give people?
Maybe that people won't use that time in a productive way, and they will waste time.
Okay. Anything else?
That some people enjoys to drive.
Yes, he said that driving can be relaxing.
Yes, exactly. So he says, yeah, many people like driving, they enjoy driving if it's like a distraction, a way to relax. And if they start using these driverless cars, they won't do anything productive with that time, right? So they'll do just things that they already do most of the day, and they'll waste the time. So it's not a benefit according to him. Exactly. Is there anything that you would like to add? Any of you would like to add? Okay, guys, perfect. Now the question, I don't know if you guys remember what it was. I'm gonna play it again.
And driverless cars will just be another way to work or waste time. Now, answer the question. Summarize the points made in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt on the specific points made in the reading passage.
Right, so summarize the points in the lecture, being sure to explain how they cast doubt, how they relate, how they question the specific points made in the reading passage. So you need to contrast the both. That's pretty much what they want, right? Summarize the points in the lecture, so you write more about the lecture, but you need to contrast that information with what you have from the text. Okay, guys? How do we do that? What do we do to do what they're asking? Technically, there are many ways to write this essay. What I would suggest you guys do in the template that I'm gonna give you, looks like this. Right? Okay, here's what we're going to do. This is our template. Well, first of all, as for the structure, as for the format, we are going to have 4 different paragraphs, basically the same format as the reading. So pretty easy to remember, 4 paragraphs, at least 4 paragraphs. If you want, you can have a conclusion in one last paragraph, but that's not necessary, okay? At least 4 paragraphs. We will have an introduction as our first paragraph, and we will have 3 body paragraphs. So same thing as the reading. And what we're going to do is we're going to contrast. Pretty much what we're going to do is this, okay? But obviously in different words, but we're going to say, the reading says that autonomous cars will have a positive impact. But the professor says that there are problems that we are ignoring. The reading says that these cars will be safer because they are not capable of making mistakes. But the professor says that they will not be safer because their software is designed by humans and they can make mistakes just like us. For example, the car mentioned in the reading actually hit an off. Then the reading says that these cars will be beneficial for the environment. But the professor says that they will not be beneficial for the environment because there will be more cars on the roads, since there will be no driver license needed, and so forth. And then finally, the reading says that these cars will give passengers time, and that's another benefit. But the professor says that people are just going to waste this time, and many people actually enjoy driving. That's exactly what we're going to do. It's very simple, but we need to make it a little bit fancier, right? We need to create more of an academic structure. So we're going to be using transitions first, furthermore, finally, for example, for instance, we're going to be using different synonyms to refer to the reading. So we're not just going to say the reading, the reading, the reading. We're going to say the author, the article, the reading passage, the extract. We're not only going to say the professor, but we'll say the lecture, the presentation. We're not just going to say the reading says, the professor says. We're going to say states, claims, points out, describes, mentions, explains. We're going to use different reporting terms. But at the end of the day, the structure is the same. We won't say but, the professor says. We will say however, nevertheless, still, on the other hand, by contrast. And all of those, let's say, fancier transitions and verbs. But at the end of the day, that's the structure. So it's actually very simple if you have the correct vocabulary, if you can remember different ways to refer to the reading, if you can remember different transitions for contrast, if you can remember different ways to refer to the listening, then you're good to go. Although it seems like you have to do a lot of memorizing, at the end of the day, it's just learning some vocabulary, okay? But it's pretty simple. I promise that it's pretty simple. And as simple as it looks, it can get you a perfect score, I guarantee. Okay, guys, so first tip that I can give you is try not to overcomplicate yourself. There are many times when students try to make things a little bit more complicated, a little bit different. They try to have like an interesting essay, something different, something creative, but this is not creative writing. So forget about that. This is not about, many people say you have to have a hook, you have to make it interesting and catch the reader's attention. That is true, but for other essays, right? That's true when we write other types of documents, not when we're just trying to demonstrate that we can write in English. Here, your purpose is to just demonstrate that you can write, that you can express the idea as well, that you can summarize the ideas presented to you, that you have good grammar, that you have good vocabulary, and that you know how to write an essay. That's it. It's not about being creative or making it interesting. Nothing like that. Okay, it's just demonstrating you can write. Okay, guys. So remember that, please. Don't try to complicate yourself. Try to do things differently. Follow the template. Follow the structure at least, and it'll be good. At the end of the day, again, the purpose is demonstrating you can write. They are not looking for something different. They just want to know that you can actually express the ideas correctly with good grammar, good vocabulary, good syntax, and that's it. Okay, guys, do you have any questions before we start seeing this template? Okay, guys, so let's see what we're going to do. First, as I was telling you, we will have a short introduction. And in our introduction, we need 3 sentences, only 3 sentences. Well, yeah, 3 sentences. The first sentence will be some context. That means that you will talk a little bit about the topic in general. And you will give a little bit of context. Talk about the topic in general, explain a little bit about what the topic is, what it's about, and that's it. When I say the topic in general, I mean talk about, remember in the beginning we said there's one thing that's the topic and another thing is the main point in the reading. So in this case, you just need to talk about the topic. You need to talk about driverless cars, give some explanation to what they are, and that's it. You don't have to get into details about what the professor or what the author said. So that's the first sentence. The second sentence is where you summarize the author's or the reading, if you will, the author's main point. So you have to explain or summarize the author's main idea, which is what we already highlighted from the text. And then you need to contrast that main idea with the professor's main point. And that's about it. Those are the 3 sentences that you guys will need in your introduction. How do we do it? You can use these phrases, you can use these words if you want. You can, for the context, you can start by saying both the article and lecture discuss, which means tanto el artículo como el audio hablan sobre, discuss. And then you go back to the reading, and I want you guys to do this all the time. So you go back to the reading and you see the first paragraph of the reading. Okay, and what you do here is you identify the topic that we already identified, autonomous cars, and you will always in the introduction have some explanation about the topic. Because remember that this is academic, these are not too difficult, but somehow technical words, So if you just say both the lecture and article talk about autonomous cars or discuss autonomous cars, read the other one. So if you just say this, then it feels like you're missing something. And what you're missing is explaining what autonomous cars are. You need to assume that somebody who hasn't read the article and who hasn't heard the lecture will be reading your essay. So you need to explain what both of them were about to them. So both the reading and lecture, or both the article and lecture, discuss autonomous cars. And what you do is you go back to the reading and you search in the introduction for one phrase or one sentence that contains the explanation on the topic. What do I mean by that? There's always going to be one sentence that explains what autonomous cars are. In this case, this is the one. The technology is simple to understand. Using sensors on computers, these cars can drive without input from a human. So what are autonomous cars? Are basically cars that using sensors or computers can drive without input from a human. Now, technically speaking, you could copy and paste. I mean, not so technically speaking, because you actually can't do that. You don't have those commands, but you could type copying from the reading, right? You can do this. The lecture discuss autonomous cars, copy and paste. Now, is that advisable? Obviously not, okay? Don't copy phrases or from words. I mean, you obviously will copy some words, but don't copy entire phrases from the text. So don't copy and paste. What you guys need to do is find a way to say the same in different words. That is called paraphrasing. So you need to be able to change these words without changing the meaning. So perhaps you can say vehicles that, let's say vehicles that do not require to be driven, or that do not require a human drive, for example, right? I'm saying exactly the same. Cars that can drive without input from a human is the same as saying vehicles that don't require a human drive, right? So, or don't require to be driven by humans, maybe. Whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you need to keep the idea. And this is the first sentence. As simple as that. You talk about the topic and you explain it a little bit just to give some context as to what the topic was. You will always find this information in the introduction of the reading, so you just need to look for it. Okay, guys, and obviously paraphrase, don't just copy and paste. Is this okay? Do you guys have any questions about this first sentence so far? Okay, that was the first sentence, the context. Now the second sentence is where you will summarize the author, that means from part of the reading, the author's main point. Again, technically you can always copy and paste. You can say the reading extract, which is the reading, claims, argumenta, sostiene que, claims that. So you can go back to the reading. Remember that you already have an idea of where the main point is. This was the main point. Technically, you can just copy and paste. The reading extract claims that they will have a positive impact on our driving experience, but we don't want to do that. We want to paraphrase it. So how can we say this in different words? Any ideas on how we can paraphrase this sentence?
Maybe they will give a better experience for drivers.
Okay. Yes, of course. But let's not say drivers, because there won't be any drivers, right?
for humans, maybe.
Okay, good. So the reading extra claims that they will provide instead of give, they will provide humans, or let's say provide people, I don't know. Provide people with a better. Okay, but if we just say provide people with a better experience, it's not so related to driving, so let's say with a better commuting experience. Commuting is like transportation, commuting, or we can say with a better transport experience, maybe, or traveling experience as well. But that's okay. The reading extra claims that they will provide people with a better commuting experience, or that they will improve our commuting experience. That could be another way, Doesn't matter. I'm just overthinking. But that's it. That's the idea. You just have to summarize the author's main point, okay? And paraphrase. That okay so far? Any questions? Oh, I'm forgetting. And then you have to place a comma and say, and provides 3 arguments of support. So the reading extra claims that they will provide people with a better commuting experience and provides 3 arguments of support. And the author provides 3 arguments of support, right? I'm just referring to those 3 reasons that the author gives without, careful with this, without actually mentioning what those are. And that's a very important rule. You guys cannot mention the reasons here. That means that you can't talk about safety, time, environment. That's a no-go, okay? You can't do that. You're just supposed to talk about the general ideas in the introduction. That okay so far? Any questions? Okay, then. And finally, you get to the third and last sentence where you contrast that idea with the professor's idea, with the professor's main point. Now you can copy and paste now. You need to look at your notes. You need to rely on your notes and on your memory to talk about the professor's perspective. So you're going to say, however, the professor argues that, el docente argumenta que, and then you contrast whatever you wrote for the reading. So what did the professor say here? What can we say? Any suggestions? No suggestions, really? Nobody? Okay, maybe we can say, however, the professor argues that the driverless cars will not be so beneficial after all. Maybe, So driverless cars will not be so beneficial after all, or will have some shortcomings, that people are ignoring some of the problems brought by driverless cars. Many ways to express the same, to say that the professor doesn't think that they will be so beneficial, so good, so positive. Okay, guys? And that's it. That's your introduction. That's all you need there. Don't pay too much attention to the introduction, I'd say. To be honest, the most important part will be the body. So don't waste too much time there, making it perfect. That's it. Any questions about the intro so far? Okay. Okay, guys. I'm gonna paste this somewhere else. Maybe here. Okay. All right. Now, what about the body paragraphs? The structure is the same for all of the body paragraphs, and I would say that's a good thing because you don't have to remember too much. What you guys will be doing in the body paragraphs is what I was just telling you, you know? The reading says that these cars will be safer, but the professor says they won't. Explain. That's it. So what you need to remember is that you can only have one sentence for the reading. One sentence where you summarize the reading. That's gonna be your first sentence of the body paragraph. One sentence where you summarize. This is really important and a lot of students forget. One sentence where you summarize the reading's point, or let's say the article's point, or supporting point, right? Because it's not the main point, it's the supporting point. So for example, in this first sentence, you can say the article starts by stating that, el artículo empieza argumentando que, and then you talk about safety, right? Because that was the main point. We said that these vehicles will be much safer because they're not capable of making mistakes. So we say that in this first sentence. The article starts by stating that autonomous cars will increase maybe public's safety. I'm trying to paraphrase it a little bit. As they are incapable of error, perhaps. Okay, so I just paraphrase, but the idea is the same. That is it. That is all you guys can mention about the reading. You cannot have more than one sentence. If you continue here, that would be wrong. One sentence for the reading. And when I say one sentence, and this is going to be for everything, I want you guys to remember this. In one sentence, you can only have one connector. That means that your sentences can only have at most two clauses. In this case, I am already having two clauses in this sentence, right? One idea here, one clause, autonomous cars will increase the public safety. And another idea here, as they're capable of error. This is my connector, as, it means because, right? Just a synonym of because, but I wanna show more vocabulary, so as. You can only have one connector and two clauses. I have seen a lot of sentences like this, as they are incapable of making mistakes, so there will be less accidents or fewer accidents. There will be fewer accidents and people will feel safer, but I don't know, people will feel safer, but they will, or they won't, they will not have to drive, let's say. Okay, I have seen a lot of people do this, and you can do it. Why? Because this sentence has more than two clauses, right? We have one here, we have another one here, we have another idea here, another one here, and one more. We have, look at how many connectors we have. We have as, so, and, but. Don't do that, okay? As I told you, your sentences can only have at most two clauses and one connector. All right, that's the rule for the writing in general, okay? Is that okay so far? Do you have any questions about that? Maybe here. Okay, I'm adding that, but I'm not adding another clause, right? This is not a clause. Causing accidents is just a phrase. A clause needs to have a subject and a verb. Okay, guys. So that is the first sentence, the one where you summarize the article supporting point, that the idea that these cars will be safe. Make it with another color. Okay. Now you need to contrast that idea with the professor's supporting point. So contrast the previous idea with the professor's supporting point. Okay, so you say nevertheless, which just means however, but, pero, sin embargo, maybe in the presentation, it's noted that, se aclara que, and now you talk about the professor's point here, right? So what you already told me about the fact that what did you guys say? That the software is designed by humans, that they can just make mistakes with the example. So that this is where you have to explain that, okay? My suggestion is try to always have like a general sentence. You say, nevertheless, in the presentation, it is noted that the software behind such cars is designed by humans. Therefore, they are just as prone to error as we are, and could cause and could equally cause traffic accidents. Okay. So, nevertheless, in the presentation, it's noted that the software behind such cars is designed by humans. Therefore, they are just as prone to error as we are. You know, they are just as capable of making mistakes as we are. And they could equally cause traffic accidents. They could likewise, they could okay, let's just leave it there. Look at I mean, if you think about it, I have two sentences, right? I have one sentence where I do the contrast, and I have another sentence where I continue explaining. That is what you have to do here. You need to include the details in this part. When you talk about the professor's perspective, you can have more than one sentence. You can have 1, 2, 3, even 4 if you want. Okay, obviously try not to make it too long because you won't have so much time, but as many sentences as you need to explain this in detail, you know, as many as you think are ready. And then you can obviously mention the example. If you have examples or details, you mention them. So for example, it is said that the car mentioned by the author was actually responsible for a recent accident where this driverless car hit another one, right? So this was the example, right? It is said that the car mentioned by the author was actually responsible for a recent accident where these driverless cars hit another one. I don't know if I could say this. Was responsible. Okay, maybe I would say it is said that the driverless car or the self-driving car mentioned by the author was actually responsible for a recent accident by hitting another car, right? I have one more sentence where I give the details, the examples. Look at how many sentences I have. I have 1, 2, 3, and even I can even have a fourth one if I want. It's not necessary, you know, if you leave it there, it's perfect. You already explained the main point that these cars are not safer. But if you want, you can have like a closing idea as well. You can say, in this sense, or I don't know, this event I don't know, questions the safety of this new technology. Right, maybe? Or this event questions the safety. Yeah, I think I would leave it like that. So it's like my closing idea where I go back to the main point, which is safety, right? Or I could do something different. I could say in this way, in this sense, as a result, it cannot really be said that these cars will be safer than normal cars, let's say. You know, that could be another way, an alternative if you want. Many ways in which you can do this. But that's the idea, you know, you can have like a closing idea where you go back to the main argument. The main argument here is safety. So you can say, as a result, these cars may not actually be so safe, may not actually be safer than normal cars. This questions the safety of these cars. So one sentence where you go back to the main point. If you want, it's optional, okay? But at least you should have 3 sentences, I'd say it would be the minimum that you can have, okay? Because that's about how much it takes to explain the ideas. Is this okay? Or we can maybe add here, explain, right? Explain the professor's point in detail. So what do you guys think now? Do you have any questions so far? Is this going well? Okay, guys, good. I'm glad you don't have questions then. Well, I'm not so glad that you don't have questions because I like it when you ask questions, but maybe when you start practicing, you're going to be thinking of more questions. Okay, guys. Don't worry, tomorrow we'll continue, we'll finish the essay. Although the other paragraphs are exactly the same, but we'll be finishing the essay. And I'll give you some tips as to what to do to expand your vocabulary on this one, what to do to demonstrate grammar, effective use of grammar. I'll give you some tips maybe on punctuation, which is something that many students struggle with. Yes, I guess that. Punctuation, vocabulary, grammar. And I guess just writing in general, you know, like academic writing. I'll give you some ideas, but not much that we can do. Okay? And we'll obviously practice, and if we have time, we'll be seeing other examples of other question types. Because to be honest, this was relatively easy. I'm just showing you this so that you have the idea of how to structure your response and how this works. But there are going to be more difficult topics. So, you know, sometimes you will have like history or biographies. So it can be a little bit more difficult when you have those type of that type of vocabulary, but it's still the same. You know, we'll be seeing some other examples. So no questions really before we go? Okay, guys, good. Then please, before you go, don't forget to fill out today's daily survey. It should be on your screens. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope you have a great night.
Thank you. Until tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank you.
one.
Tomorrow.
Bye.